Okay, so we just talked about DigitalHub. I'd like to now show you kind of how to navigate in more detail. Like I said, this was the system that we're kind of trying to replace. And so this is how it begins. We've partnered with another open PLM platform called Eris, based out of the US. The system is Eris Innovator, and basically what we've done is we've taken Eris Innovator, which think of it as a big box of Lego bricks, and most people will get Innovator and have to build the basics brick by brick themselves. We've pre-built a basic set of parts and the relationships for the shipbuilding industry. So out of the box, you can already get a lot of value. So we start off, this is a web page that you'd load, and you pick your Eris Innovator project, which is a DigitalHub project. Now, a DigitalHub project may reference multiple ShipConstructor projects. So again, whether it's a single hull, that could go in here, whether it's a series of hulls like sister ships, that could go in here, or even if it's just different projects altogether, they can all go into one of these projects, so you can view it. So this is our navigation pane. Things like administration, change management, these come by default with Innovator. The part that SSI has added is in here, design. So we have your blocks, classes, drawings, hulls, parts, which are like items. They can be assemblies as well. And again, these refer to this kind of data model. So I'll start with showing you can go from classes, navigate down to the hulls in that class, whether the class be a workboat or the class be a frigate or whatever the class is. You can find hulls underneath that, and so on and so forth. So I'll go over some basic navigation. So if we click on class, this classes tab shows up, and in it are the classes that have been loaded into that project. So in this case, I've called the class of ship SSI. So now, if we click on that class of ship, this SSI class, in it are some hulls. Now in this case, I only have one hull. It's the training project, which you're probably all familiar with. So, as you add hulls, they would appear here. So you click on training project to see data from that ShipConstructor project. Now, remember, again, this has all been data that's been preloaded, pre-formatted, automatically using the EnterprisePlatform system. So now we click on training project, another tab comes up showing the training hull. And in this area, it's showing the blocks. So training project, for those of you familiar with it, it has two blocks, Unit 1, Unit 2, and those are listed here. There's also a viewable file, uo1.nwd. If you were to click on that, it would start up Navisworks, whether it be Freedom or Simulate or Manage, and you could right away see the 3D view of that block and inspect it. Also, if you're looking at the block, you can see that the hull is also listed here. So if you want to traverse the other way, if you want to go from a block back up to the hull, you can go that. So navigation is bi-directional. Now let's say we've clicked on that block, and some pertinent information is here. This is a summary of information. The name, the revision it's on, some links that you can click to see, again, the Navisworks files and so on. But this is the interesting part right here. So we have all the model drawings for that block, for that unit. Okay, and they're all listed here. And you can click on any one of them to go see that drawing. Similarly, we have production drawings a flat bill of materials, a bill of material structure which basically parallels our product hierarchy, and then any other associated files. So let's say, going back that we found, let's say there's a system of interest. So we could click on that system, and now it's showing this tab for our sanitary freshwater system. And that's actually a DWG file, a 3D CAD model drawing. And you can see there's a thumbnail right there. The reason we have a thumbnail is just for quick identification. It's just a quick check to say, am I in the right thing? Because sometimes names can be very similar. And this is just a quick visual confirmation that, yes, I'm looking at what I wanted to look at. I'll continue digging now. So you have this thumbnail image of the 3D model drawing. And then you can take a look at what other parts or actually in this case it's just the drawing, but you can find out other details as you go further. So again, navigating DigitalHub, lots of times you can start from an assembly and work down, sub-assembly, plate part, over to plate nest, back to plate part. You can look at profile parts, profile nest, back to profile parts. But also, you can navigate in terms of seeing the build sequence of something. So here, again, I have block 1. And instead of model drawings, which I had last time, which listed a whole bunch of model drawings which I could look at, in this case, I have the BOM structure. It's a tree structure. And so you can see, here we have assembly 0104 and a sub-assembly under that, a sub-sub-assembly under that. And then we're getting down into parts themselves. So, sometimes that makes more sense to navigate it that way, and so we provide that view. Sometimes you don't want to navigate in a hierarchical fashion. Sometimes you know that there's a part number or some text that you're looking for and you just want to get to it. So instead of navigating from blocks in a hierarchical fashion, you can just go to the Parts tab, and this is kind of a global parts search. So parts in terms of the PLM refers to ShipConstructor parts, ShipConstructor assemblies, ShipConstructor drawings and spools. So, here you can enter in any names, the first couple letters of a name, and search it just like you would in Excel. Really, this is as easy as Excel. But like Runar mentioned for Shipweight, this is powered by a database, so it's a lot more powerful. In terms of tracking change, there's a laser pointer. So we have a tab here called Files, and it shows two things. The first is there is an initial import. This is where we imported the state of the project the first time. And that gets registered into this system of record, into this DigitalHub for people to view. And then some work happens over the next day or two, let's say. And then overnight, the system imports those changes. The changes are all recorded in ShipConstructor. It tracks what's changed, and we basically harvest those changes overnight. And we track them as basically, we call it a delta import. This is just the changes themselves. And like I mentioned in my previous slide, you get a list of all these changes. And I guess the first thing is this what I expected? Have some changes gotten in that maybe shouldn't have, and maybe I have to figure out why that happened. But otherwise, yeah, that makes sense. Kind of in the future, in the near future, we're also going to be looking at importing not just time-based changes, like what happened overnight, but task-based changes. This subcontractor had that task. I want to import the subcontractor's changes. Or this person had a task on my team. I want to import those team changes. So you can track changes that way too. Talking about life cycles, releasing the data, we have three main life cycles. Preliminary, which as you can imagine, things are in preliminary state. You're still working on designs. You're still working on your production drawings, your annotations, your layouts, and all that. And so we can go from preliminary, then you think you're done. It goes into review. Maybe there's a problem. Maybe there's a clash. It goes back to preliminary. And at any time when people are in the Digital Hub, you can see the state of things. You say, okay, it's still in preliminary. Maybe I shouldn't do any work. Or maybe I'm just informally looking at things. I'm not making any decisions on it because it's still in preliminary. But I might see something. I might have a conversation with someone to make sure that we're aligned. But finally, it gets in for review again. And then things are released. Okay, at this point, it gets marked as revision A. So now it's gone out to, it's ready to go out to planning, it's ready to go out to production, so forth. Now let's say, despite our best intentions, and we all know this, we find things, we find a problem, we need to make a late change. You have to start an engineering change order. And so now you have to kick out of the released state back to preliminary. You still have a bunch of deliverables that have been issued at Rev A. What the system now tells you is that, yes, those have been issued. Those are still out in the wild. But we've marked that as in change. In other words, a change is coming. Whether you want to hold off on work or proceed at risk, it's up to you. But we're trying to communicate that a change is coming. So again, that change gets worked on. That gets put to in review. And finally, that engineering change passes, and we're going to be re-releasing the block. So that block gets released as Rev B. You now issue a whole bunch of new production documents based around the change. And we keep a historical record of the documents that were issued on Rev A, just in case, right? If you want to say, hey, what was going out to the shop floor? You can find it, you can browse it, Digital Hub, but it'll say Rev A superseded. So it's very clear that this is just for historical reasons, for archival purposes. But by default, the thing we show is always the most current, and it'll be marked as Rev B. So you get this very clear, confident view of things. I like Marcel's example of your bank app. You can trust it. You say, okay, this drawing is at Rev B. It's been released. I can trust it. I don't have to say, hey, did I get this? Am I looking at the right email? Am I looking at the right folder on my network? Am I looking at the right Excel spreadsheet? It's all managed here. And so the way that we advance these states, which we call life cycles, is, so here I have a test block. The block is in preliminary, and I've done my work, and I want to set it to review. So I go click on this promote button, which brings up a dialog, and it's offering me which of the states I can go to. What's the to state? In this case, I can only go from preliminary to in review. So that's the only one that's offered. I can click that, and it'll move it to in review. So again, it's just some quick navigation. By the way, I've brought my laptop preloaded with the training project, and I encourage you all to track me down after, and I'll let you click through it. I won't guide it, because it really should be self-evident how to navigate it. And for those of you who are familiar with the training project, or even those who aren't, I think you'll find that it's very easy to browse. You get a quick sense of the state of affairs in the project, and especially think about your colleagues who aren't in the CAD department, who aren't ShipConstructor users. Think about how they could consume this data and how easy it is. It's just a web browser. It's just clickable. So I have my laptop here, and I, again, encourage you to track me down, and I'll let you try it out. So again, Digital Hub, it's easily discoverable data. That's one of the key points. Web browsable, parts and their relationships, centralized platform that's commercially supported by SSI. It's a system of record that tracks changes across the life of a project. It's configuration managed. We're talking about preliminary, in review, released, released superseded, all these kind of things, very clearly done. And again, this is the foundation that we're going to extend to add more workflows in our shipbuilding PLM offerings coming down the line. So that's all I had. We can fill out the rest of the time with some calisthenics to keep people moving. But again, please track me down afterwards, and thank you for your time.